I thought it was going to be the worst day of my life, but it turned out to be the day I finally got my freedom. It all started as the clock ticked toward 7 that Friday evening. The emerald green evening gown felt like silk against my skin as I descended the staircase in my parents' Mount Pleasant home. I'd worked 2 extra jobs to buy at weekend shifts at the campus bookstore and late nights waitressing at a seafood shack on Shem Creek. Every time a customer was rude or my feet ached, I'd picture myself in this dress, walking into Magnolia's for my 21st birthday dinner, the legal milestone. The night I'd finally be the main character in my own story, just for once. I adjusted my earrings at the landing, my reflection catching in the hallway mirror. My makeup was perfect, smoky eyes, bold lip. My heart raced with a hope so fragile I was almost afraid to feel it. Then I reached the bottom of the stairs and froze. The living room looked like a funeral parlor. The heavy curtains were drawn despite the golden evening light outside. The lamps cast long, dramatic shadows across the hardwood floor. And there, sprawled across the leather sectional like a Victorian invalid, was my sister Tiffany. She was 25 years old and wearing stained pajama pants with a ratty college sweatshirt she'd never earned. Her eyes were swollen, mascara streaked down her cheeks in theatrical rivers. Crumpled tissues surrounded her like fallen snow. My parents, Gary and Brenda Monroe, knelt beside her as if attending to a dying patient, whispering soothing nonsense and stroking her hair. No one was dressed for dinner. My stomach dropped. "Mom?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "We have reservations at 7. We should leave soon if we're going to." My mother's head snapped up. Her eyes met mine, and there was no guilt there, no apology, only cold, calculated accusation. She stood and moved to block me at the bottom of the stairs, her hand shooting out to grip my wrist. "Take off your shoes immediately." Her voice was a harsh whisper. "Don't make a sound. Your sister is suffering. Can't you see that?" I stared at her, my mind struggling to process what was happening. Behind her, I could see my father rubbing Tiffany's back in slow circles, while she sobbed dramatically into a decorative pillow. 2 months ago, I'd called Magnolia's the day they opened reservations. I'd marked it on my calendar in red ink. 21, the birthday that mattered in America, the one that meant something. I'd planned this dinner down to the minute, coordinating schedules, confirming and reconfirming. And now my mother was telling me to take off my shoes and be quiet. "What happened?" I asked, though part of me already knew the answer would be something absurd. Something that wouldn't matter to anyone except Tiffany. "Your sister is going through something," Mom hissed. "She needs us tonight. Surely you can understand that family comes first." Family. The word tasted like poison. I felt anger building in my chest, hot and unfamiliar. But then that old instinct kicked in, the one that had been trained into me since childhood. Be the peacekeeper. Don't make waves. Keep everyone happy except yourself. I opened my mouth to say something gentle, something understanding. To ask if maybe we could still go. Just for an hour. That's when Tiffany screamed. The sound shattered the artificial quiet like breaking glass. She lunged off the couch and grabbed the bottle of wine sitting on the side table. Dad's expensive Napa Valley Cabernet, the one he'd been saving for a special occasion. "If you dare leave me home alone tonight." She held the bottle over her head like a weapon, her face contorted with rage. "If you dare go celebrate her birthday while I'm suffering like this, I will smash this house to pieces. I'll throw this through the TV. I'll swallow a whole bottle of sleeping pills. I swear to God I will." She advanced toward the entertainment center, where my father's prized 80-inch flat screen hung on the wall, the bottle trembling in her raised hand. My father didn't tell her to calm down. He didn't take the bottle away or tell her she was being ridiculous. He spun around to face me instead. His face was red, the veins in his neck bulging. "Do you see how selfish you are?" His voice cracked with exertion. "Do you see what you're doing to this family? Cancel the table immediately. Go to your room. We're having frozen pizza tonight, and you're going to sit there quietly and be grateful we're even acknowledging your birthday at all." The words hit me like physical blows. I stood there in my emerald green dress, my carefully applied makeup, my painful heels. I'd spent weeks planning this, months saving for this dress, years dreaming of one night where I mattered, and my father was ordering me to my room like a child. Something inside me cracked. Not broke, not yet, but cracked enough that light started seeping through. This wasn't just thoughtlessness. This wasn't just Tiffany being dramatic or my parents being dense. This was calculated. This was cruel. This was them choosing, actively choosing, to hurt me. For the first time in my 21 years, I didn't nod. I didn't apologize. I didn't scurry upstairs to cry quietly into my pillow where no one would be inconvenienced by my feelings. I gripped the banister, my fingernails digging into the polished wood until I felt splinters bite my skin. No. The word came out steady. Stronger than I felt. I won't cancel. I'm going alone. My mother gasped like I'd slapped her. My father's face went purple. Tiffany's mouth dropped open in genuine shock, apparently. The idea that I might defy them had never occurred to her. You ungrateful little... Dad started forward. The doorbell rang. The sound cut through the tension like a blade, sharp and intrusive. Everyone froze mid-motion, turning toward the front door like deer caught in headlights. For 3 long seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then my father's face went pale. "Who the hell is that?" Tiffany whispered, still clutching the wine bottle. The doorbell rang again, longer this time, insistent. And somehow, I knew with a certainty that made my pulse quicken that everything was about to change. My father practically lunged for the door, his body language shifting from rage to panic in an instant. He smoothed his shirt, pasted on a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and opened the door just wide enough to block the view into the living room. "Logan!" His voice came out too loud, too cheerful. "What a surprise. We weren't expecting..." "I told you I was coming." The voice from outside was gravel and ice. 2 days ago. You said it was fine. Uncle Logan. My father's older brother. Dad laughed nervously, using his body to fill the doorway. Right, of course. It's just that, He lowered his voice, but the house's acoustics carried every word straight to where I stood, frozen on the stairs. Kayla has severe food poisoning. She's been vomiting her guts out upstairs all evening. We'll probably have to cancel the party. The poor girl is in bad shape. The lie fell from his lips so easily, so smoothly, like he'd rehearsed it. Something cold and hard settled in my chest where the hurt had been. Not numbness, worse than numbness. Clarity. Disgust. I'd always known my parents favored Tiffany. I'd told myself it was because she was more outgoing, more charismatic, more needy. I'd made excuses for them, convinced myself they loved me in their own way. But this was different. This was my father looking someone in the eye and lying about me being sick, rather than admitting what was really happening. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I stepped forward into the light of the hallway. My heels clicked against the hardwood, sharp, deliberate sounds that made my father's shoulders tense. I walked right up behind him, my emerald dress shimmering under the chandelier, my makeup flawless, my posture straight, living proof that he was a liar. "I'm not sick." My voice came out steadier than I felt, but I could hear it trembling at the edges. Dad's lying. They canceled my 21st birthday party because Tiffany threatened to kill herself if I was happier than her for one single night. My father's face went from pale to crimson. "Kayla, go upstairs, right?" Uncle Logan pushed the door open. He was in his 50s, tall and broad-shouldered, with steel-gray hair and the kind of presence that made people instinctively step back. He wore an expensive suit despite the Charleston humidity, and his eyes, sharp and assessing, took in the scene with the cold efficiency of a man who'd built a real estate empire from nothing. He looked at Tiffany, still clutching the wine bottle like a weapon. At my mother, frozen beside the couch. At my father, whose mouth was opening and closing like a fish. Then he looked at me. Really looked at me. At the dress, the makeup, the heartbreak probably written all over my face despite my best efforts. "Gary." Uncle Logan's voice could have cut glass. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly." He stepped fully into the house, and my father had no choice but to back up. Uncle Logan's gaze never left Dad's face, and I watched my father shrink under it. "You called me 3 weeks ago," Uncle Logan continued, his tone conversational but deadly. "You told me you needed an extra $2,000 this month, because the accounting business was struggling, and you needed to make sure Kayla's tuition was covered. You said education was the priority, that you'd do anything to make sure she graduated." Dad's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "I've been sending you $6,000 a month for the past 2 years. Uncle Logan said. "You told me it was for Kayla's education, for the mortgage, for keeping this family afloat while you got the business back on track." He turned to look at Tiffany, who'd finally lowered the wine bottle but still wore that petulant, entitled expression I knew so well. "So, you're telling me," Uncle Logan said softly, "that I've been paying $6,000 a month to support a 25-year-old woman who threatens suicide when her younger sister tries to celebrate a birthday? It's not like that." Mom jumped in, her voice taking on that syrupy, manipulative tone she used when she wanted something. "Tiffany has been going through such a difficult time. She's sensitive. She's unemployed," Uncle Logan supplied. "Living off her parents at 25? Driving a car she didn't pay for?" Tiffany's face went red. "How dare you? This is my house. Get out." The words hung in the air for a moment. Then Uncle Logan laughed. It wasn't a nice sound. "Your house?" He pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped a few times, then turned the screen toward Tiffany. "The deed says otherwise. This house is in my name. Has been since I co-signed the mortgage 5 years ago and your father defaulted on the first payment." Tiffany's face went from red to white. "And that Mercedes C-Class sitting in the driveway?" Uncle Logan continued, his voice getting quieter and somehow more terrifying. "The one with the vanity plates that say Tiff. That's registered to my company. Part of the business expenses your father claimed he needed." The silence was deafening. I watched my sister's face crumble, watched the reality of her situation crash down on her. She'd thought she was untouchable. She'd thought she owned everything. She owned nothing. "The car keys," Uncle Logan said. "Now." "You can't," Tiffany started. "I can. And I am." He held out his hand. "Keys. Or I call the police and report it stolen." Tiffany looked at our parents, waiting for them to defend her, to fight for her like they always did. Dad wouldn't meet her eyes. Mom stared at the floor. With shaking hands, Tiffany dug into her sweatshirt pocket and pulled out the Mercedes key fob. She threw it onto the coffee table where it landed with a hollow clatter. Uncle Logan picked it up, examined it for a moment, then turned and walked straight to me. "Happy 21st birthday, Kayla." He pressed the key fob into my palm, his hand warm and steady around mine. "I was planning to give you my old Camry, but I've changed my mind. That Mercedes is yours now. Drive away from this asylum immediately." I stared at the keys in my hand, my mind struggling to process what was happening. Behind Uncle Logan, I could see Tiffany's face contorted with rage and disbelief. She opened her mouth to scream again. But then something strange happened. Her expression shifted, just for a second. Her eyes flicked toward the kitchen counter, toward something I couldn't quite see from where I stood. And then she smiled. Not a big smile, just a tiny quirk of her lips, there and gone so fast I almost thought I'd imagined it. A chill ran down my spine, but before I could process it, I heard a car horn outside. Austin. My boyfriend had pulled up to the curb right on schedule, ready to take me to dinner. "I'll get my things," I heard myself say. I don't remember going upstairs. I don't remember packing my suitcase, but somehow, 10 minutes later, I was dragging it down the stairs, my hand white-knuckled around the handle. My parents were clustered around Uncle Logan near the door. They weren't trying to stop me. They weren't begging me to stay or apologizing for ruining my birthday. They were begging him not to cut off the money. "Logan, please, you have to understand." Mom's voice was desperate, pleading. "We have expenses. We have obligations." "You have consequences," Uncle Logan said flatly, "and you're about to experience all of them." I walked past them like they were strangers. Tiffany sat on the couch, staring at nothing, her face blank except for that strange little smile still playing at the corners of her mouth. Austin was out of his car the moment he saw me, taking my suitcase and loading it into his trunk. He looked at my face and didn't ask questions, just pulled me into a hug that smelled like his cologne and safety. "Take her somewhere nice." Uncle Logan called from the doorway, "Put it on my card. And Kayla?" He waited until I turned around. "You're staying with me until you graduate. No arguments." I nodded, not trusting my voice. As Austin started the car, I looked back one last time. Through the window, I could see my parents still clustered around Uncle Logan, gesturing frantically. I could see Tiffany on the couch, and I could see her reach behind a cushion and pull out her phone, that smile getting wider. Something was wrong. Something I wasn't seeing yet. But right now, with the Mercedes keys in my pocket and Austin's hand warm in mine, I couldn't bring myself to care. I'd finally walked out, finally stood up for myself. Whatever came next, I'd face it when it arrived. The humidity of a South Carolina September wrapped around me like a wet blanket as I stepped out onto Uncle Logan's King Street penthouse balcony. Below, the city sparkled in the late morning sun, church steeples rising above the historic district, the harbor glittering in the distance. A week had passed since I'd walked out of my parents' house, and I was still adjusting to the surreal peace of my new life. No screaming, no guilt trips. No Tiffany, creating a crisis every time someone else received attention. Just quiet. Space. Respect. Uncle Logan's penthouse was everything my parents' house wasn't: modern, minimalist, filled with natural light. My room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The kitchen was always stocked, and nobody questioned whether I deserved to be there. "Coffee's ready," Uncle Logan called from inside. I found him in the kitchen, reading the Wall Street Journal on his tablet while pouring French press coffee into 2 mugs. He'd already been up for hours. I'd heard him on conference calls at 6 a.m., but he'd waited to have breakfast with me. "How are you settling in?" "How are you settling in?" he asked, sliding a mug across the granite counter. "Good, really good." I wrapped my hands around the warm ceramic. "Thank you for—" "Don't," he cut me off gently. "You don't thank family for doing the bare minimum of treating you like a human being." I swallowed hard, not trusting myself to speak. "Your father called again last night," Uncle Logan said casually, taking a sip of his coffee. "Third time this week." Still insisting the whole thing was a misunderstanding. "What did you tell him?" "That I'd see him in court." His expression was granite. I'm done enabling his delusions. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled a real smile, warm and almost mischievous. "Speaking of which," he said, "I'm throwing you a proper birthday party. This Saturday. Here, invite whoever you want. Let's show your family what a real celebration looks like." "You don't have to." "I want to." He was already texting. "Besides, I never got to spoil my own daughter. Closest I'll get is spoiling my brilliant niece." I'd heard the story before. Uncle Logan's ex-wife had taken their daughter to California when she was 5. He'd paid child support religiously, sent gifts, tried to maintain contact, but the distance and his ex's hostility had won out. His daughter was 23 now, living in San Francisco, and they spoke maybe twice a year. Maybe that's why he'd stepped in for me so decisively. Maybe I was his second chance. The days blurred until Saturday arrived, bringing with it the sticky heat of late September. The penthouse was transformed: catering set up in the kitchen, flowers everywhere, a bar on the balcony overlooking the city. Uncle Logan had invited his business associates and their families along with my friends from the College of Charleston. The whole place glowed with golden hour light filtering through the windows. I wore a white sundress and felt, for the first time in years, genuinely happy. My roommate Jessica arrived first, squealing when she saw the setup. "Oh my God, Kayla, this is insane." Austin came with a group from his law school, all of them dressed in that careful business casual that law students perfected. He looked unfairly good in a navy blazer and jeans, and when he kissed me hello, I felt some of the residual tension from the past week finally ease. "How are you doing?" "Just," he asked quietly, his hand warm on my lower back. "Better, really." "Your parents try to contact you?" "Mom texted. I blocked her." He nodded approvingly. "Good, clean break." The party was everything. My ruined birthday dinner wasn't laughter, actual celebration. People who genuinely cared about me. Uncle Logan gave a toast that made me cry, talking about resilience and how proud he was of the woman I was becoming. Jessica posted photos on Instagram, tagging me and the location with captions about, "Finally celebrating with people who deserve you." I didn't think about my family at all. I should have. The peace lasted for 3 days. On Tuesday afternoon, I found myself at the Roasted Bean, my favorite coffee shop near campus. The place was half empty, the barista playing indie folk that was somehow both melancholy and hopeful. I'd brought my laptop and my portfolio to finalize layouts before sending everything to the printer. My senior thesis exhibition was in 3 weeks, and I needed everything perfect. The architectural model I'd spent 6 months building was carefully secured in the back seat of the Mercedes, too precious to leave at home, too bulky to bring inside. The model represented my thesis project, a sustainable community center designed for a hypothetical site in North Charleston. Every window was hand-cut acrylic. Every tree was wire and painted foam. Every detail was exact. It was my future, My career. Everything I'd worked for. I ordered my latte and settled at a corner table, spreading out my work. The familiar ritual soothed me, opening files, checking measurements, adjusting layouts. For an hour, I lost myself in the work. Then my phone buzzed. Austin. Running 10 minutes late. Just left campus. Want me to grab you anything? Me. Just you. See you soon. I smiled at my phone, then glanced out the window to where the Mercedes sat in the parking lot. The afternoon sun glinted off its silver paint. And then I saw her. Tiffany. She was walking through the parking lot, looking around like she was searching for something. My heart started pounding. How did she know I was here? Then I remembered. Find My Friends. The app we'd set up years ago when Mom insisted the family needed to stay connected. In my rush to leave, I'd never turned off location sharing. Stupid. So stupid. I watched as Tiffany circled the Mercedes, trying the door handles. They were locked. I'd checked twice, but she didn't look deterred. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something that glinted in the sun. A key. My breath caught. The spare key. The one that used to hang on the hook in my parents' kitchen. Uncle Logan had taken the primary fob, but he'd never thought about the spare. None of us had. I jumped up, my chair scraping against the floor loud enough to make the barista look up. But I was too far away, and Tiffany was already unlocking the door, already reaching into the back seat toward my model. A car screeched to a stop behind the Mercedes. Austin practically launched himself out of his Civic, still wearing his suit from a moot court session. He must have seen what was happening as he pulled in. Hey! His voice carried across the parking lot, sharp with authority. Step away from the car! Tiffany jerked back, but not before her hand closed around one of the model's supporting beams. She was smiling that same strange smile I'd seen at the house. It's not your car, Austin, she said sweetly. It's family property. I'm just retrieving what belongs. Austin grabbed her wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough that she couldn't pull away. His law training kicked in, his voice going cold and professional. Property damage over $1,000 is a felony in South Carolina. That model is worth easily 3 times that in materials and labor. His eyes bored into hers. Do you want to go to jail today? Because I will call the police right now, and I will press charges on Kayla's behalf, and you will be arrested for attempted vandalism and theft. Tiffany tried to yank her arm back, but Austin held steady. Let go of me. You're assaulting me. I'm preventing you from committing a crime. His voice didn't rise, didn't waver. There are 3 security cameras in this parking lot. Every second of this is being recorded. So you have a choice. You can drop whatever you're holding, hand over that spare key, and walk away. Or I can call 911 right now and you can explain to the cops why you're breaking into a vehicle that isn't yours. I ran out of the coffee shop, my heart hammering. By the time I reached them, Tiffany's face had gone from smug to panicked. She looked at me like I was supposed to save her. Like I was supposed to be the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed things over and made problems disappear. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Let go of the model, Tiffany, I said quietly. My voice was steady, cold even. I didn't recognize it. Kayla, come on. She tried for a pleading tone. This is ridiculous. It's just a school project. It's 6 months of work. It's my thesis. It's my future. I kept the camera trained on her face, and you were about to destroy it because you can't stand to see me succeed. That's not. Drop it, give me the key, and leave. For a long moment, Tiffany just stared at me. Like she couldn't believe I was standing up to her. Like she couldn't process that I'd stopped being afraid. Then, slowly, she released her grip on the model. Austin let go of her wrist, and she stumbled back. The key? I repeated. She dug into her pocket and threw it at me. I caught it against my chest, felt the metal warm from her body heat. You're going to regret this, she hissed. All of you. You have no idea what you've started. She turned and stalked away across the parking lot, disappearing around the corner toward the bus stop. Austin immediately went to inspect the model, his hands careful as he checked for damage. It's okay. She barely touched it. Nothing broken. I nodded, but I couldn't stop shaking. Hey. He pulled me into a hug, and I buried my face in his shoulder. You're okay. It's over. She smiled, I whispered. Right before you showed up, she smiled. like she was looking forward to destroying it. I know. His arms tightened around me. I saw. That night, back at the penthouse, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that smile, about the spare key none of us had remembered, about how Tiffany had known exactly where I was. Austin had stayed for dinner, and now we sat on the balcony with Uncle Logan, the city lights spreading out below us like fallen stars. "She's escalating," Austin said. He'd changed out of his suit into jeans and a t-shirt, but his expression was still serious. First, the suicide threats to control you. Then Uncle Logan steps in and takes away her toys. Now she's going after your future directly. "What do we do?" I asked. "We protect you legally." Austin pulled out his phone, making notes. "First thing, change all your passwords. Turn off location sharing on everything. Get new locks for the Mercedes. Document everything she does from now on." Uncle Logan nodded. "I'm already talking to my lawyer about the civil suit. Your parents took $50,000 from me over the years, claiming it was for home repairs. I want it back, with interest. There's something else." I hesitated, then pulled out my old laptop, the one I'd used in high school, the one that still had the family email synced. I knew my dad never fully deleted anything, always hoarding digital files like he hoarded receipts. I opened the laptop and navigated to the deleted items folder in the email client. It took me 10 minutes of scrolling, but I found it. A scanned copy of a check from my grandmother's estate, dated a year ago, $15,000. It was made out to me, intended for my tuition, and on the back, under the endorsement line, was a signature. "That's not my signature," I said quietly, turning the screen so they could see. "Look at the loops on the K. They're wrong, and I never signed my middle initial, but whoever forged this did." Austin leaned in, his expression hardening as he read. "Jesus Christ." "Wire fraud," Uncle Logan said softly. "And identity theft. That's a federal crime. They stole $15,000 from you." Austin was already pulling up legal statutes on his phone. "With a forged signature on an inheritance check? Kayla, this is serious. Like, prison time serious if you press charges." I stared at the screen, at the proof of my parents' theft, and felt something shift inside me. They'd stolen from me. They'd forged my signature. They'd taken money my dead grandmother had left, specifically for my education, and spent it on God knows what, probably Tiffany's lifestyle, her car payments, her shopping. "I want to press charges," I heard myself say. Uncle Logan and Austin exchanged a look. "Are you sure?" Uncle Logan asked gently. "There's no coming back from this. If we pursue this, your parents could face real jail time." I thought about my mother blocking me on the stairs, telling me to be quiet, about my father lying to Uncle Logan's face, about Tiffany reaching for my model with that smile. "I'm sure," I said. "They chose this. They chose her over me, over and over again. They stole from me. They've been bleeding you dry for years, and they're not sorry. They're not even a little bit sorry." Austin nodded slowly. "Okay. Then we document everything. We build an ironclad case, and we make sure they can't hurt you anymore." I looked out at the city, at the Ravenel Bridge lit up in the distance, and felt something like power settling into my bones. I wasn't the peacekeeper anymore. I was done keeping the peace. The Facebook post appeared on a Thursday morning, right as I was leaving for my 8 a.m. structures class. I almost didn't check social media. I'd been trying to stay off it, focusing on my thesis work and trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. But my phone kept buzzing with notifications, and finally, curiosity won out. I wish it hadn't. The post was from my mother's account, public for everyone to see, complete with a photo of her and Dad looking haggard and elderly in the harsh kitchen lighting. It breaks my heart to share this, but I feel I must speak up about elder abuse in families. Our youngest daughter has, with the manipulation of family members who don't know the full story, stolen property that was promised as part of a business agreement, cut off all contact with her sick parents, and is now threatening us with baseless legal action unless we comply with her financial demands. We raised her with love and sacrificed everything for her education. This is how we're repaid. If you're a parent of adult children, please watch for the warning signs. Narcissism can hide behind a pretty face. I stopped walking, right there on the sidewalk outside the architecture building. Students flowed around me like water around a stone. The post had over 200 likes already. Comments were pouring in. So sorry you're going through this. Praying for your family. Unbelievable. Kids these days have no respect. You should sue her for defamation. Don't let her get away with this. My hands started shaking. There were more posts. I clicked through to Dad's page. He'd shared Mom's post with his own edition about how I'd turned their own family against them and weaponized mental health accusations to steal a car. Tiffany had posted a tearful selfie with a caption about protecting parents from an abusive sister. They'd tagged me in all of it. The comments on my own page were already starting distant cousins I barely knew, asking what was really going on. Friends of friends questioning my character. Someone had even found my architecture school's social media and commented on one of my project posts. Is this the girl who abuses her parents? Why is she still enrolled? I felt like I was drowning. My phone rang. Austin. Don't read the comments, he said immediately. I know you already have, but stop now. Close the apps. They're lying. My voice came out strangled. They're telling everyone I'm the abuser. That I manipulated Uncle Logan. That I stole from them. I know. I saw. His voice was steady, calm. Where are you? Architecture building. I have class, but I can't go in there and pretend. Skip it. Come to the law library. 3rd floor, study room C. I'm already here. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in a small glass-walled room surrounded by law books, while Austin paced and Uncle Logan, who'd apparently dropped everything to drive over, read through the posts on his phone. Classic Darvo, Austin muttered. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. It's textbook narcissistic abuse. It's working, I said hollowly. Look at the comments. People believe them. People who don't know you believe them, Uncle Logan corrected. He set his phone down with deliberate care. Everyone who actually knows your parents and Tiffany, they're staying suspiciously quiet. He was right. I scanned through the comments again. They were mostly from people in my parents' church community, neighbors, casual acquaintances. The people who knew us well, extended family, old friends, weren't commenting at all. They're threatening to sue you for defamation and elder abuse, Austin said, reading from an email on his laptop. Sent to Uncle Logan's business address this morning. Unless you return the Mercedes and I restore their monthly support, they're filing in civil court. Can they win? I asked. No. Austin's voice was absolutely certain. They have no case. The car is registered to Uncle Logan's company. He can give it to whoever he wants. And elder abuse? They'd have to prove you had power over them and used it to cause harm. You're 21, and had literally moved out a week ago. But they can still file, Uncle Logan said quietly. They can drag this out, make it expensive, make it public. That's the point. They're trying to exhaust us. Austin nodded. It's a pressure tactic. They're gambling that Kayla will give in rather than fight. I thought about that, about my old instinct to smooth things over, to sacrifice myself for family peace. Then I thought about Tiffany reaching for my model with that smile. About the forged signature on my stolen college fund. About my father lying to Uncle Logan's face. We don't engage, I said slowly. Right? We don't argue on social media. We don't defend ourselves publicly. We just document everything they're doing. Austin's expression shifted to something like pride. Exactly. Every false claim they make is evidence of their malice. Every threat is proof they're not remorseful, they're just trying to maintain control. Screenshot everything, Uncle Logan added. Every post, every comment, every message. Make it so we have a complete record of their smear campaign. I nodded, feeling steadier. What about the lawsuit threat? We call their bluff. Austin pulled up a document on his laptop. Uncle Logan's attorney is already drafting the civil complaint for the $50,000 in loans. And I spent last night researching the wire fraud case. The evidence is solid. If they want to play hardball, we'll show them what real legal action looks like. Uncle Logan leaned back in his chair, his expression calculating. I'm going to send them an email. Private. One last chance to settle this quietly. Delete the posts, return the $15,000 in stolen tuition money, and sign a payment agreement for what they owe me. If they refuse, we file everything civil suit, criminal complaint for wire fraud, the works? What if they refuse? I asked. Then we bury them. Uncle Logan said simply. I've been lenient because you're my family. But Gary made his choice when he decided to lie to me and steal from you. I'm done being generous. Austin pulled up another document. I also found something interesting in the South Carolina Code. If they're claiming elder abuse to gain sympathy, but it's demonstrably false, you could potentially countersue for defamation. It won't come to that. Criminal wire fraud is way more serious, but it's good to have options. We spent the next 2 hours documenting everything. Screenshots of every post, every comment, every share, copies of Uncle Logan's bank transfers showing years of support. The email with the forged signature. The video I'd taken of Tiffany trying to break into the Mercedes. By the time we finished, we had a folder that was damning. 24 hours, Uncle Logan said as he prepared the email to my parents. That's what I'm giving them. Delete the posts, agree to repay what they've stolen, sign the settlement. Or we take this to court and potentially to the DA's office. He hit send. I watched the email disappear into the void and felt a strange mix of anxiety and relief. No more peacemaking, no more trying to fix things, just consequences. The response came 16 hours later, at 2 a.m. I was still awake, staring at the ceiling in my room at Uncle Logan's penthouse, when my phone buzzed with a forwarded email from him. It was from my father, no subject line, Logan. I don't know what lies Kayla has been filling your head with, but this has gone far enough. That girl has always been manipulative, always played the victim. We gave her everything: a roof over her head, food, education, and this is how she repays us? The car situation is a misunderstanding. You promised me that Mercedes as part of my compensation package for helping with your business paperwork over the years. Kayla stole it, plain and simple. And now you're threatening Emmy? Your own brother? Brenda is having panic attacks. Her blood pressure is through the roof. Tiffany is devastated. You're destroying this family over a spoiled brat's lies. We will not be deleting our posts. We have every right to tell our side of the story. And we will not be signing any payment agreement for money that was given as gifts, not loans. You said yourself it was family helping family. If you proceed with legal action, we will fight you every step of the way, and we will make sure everyone knows what kind of man turns his back on his own blood. Gary. I read it 3 times, feeling my stomach twist. There was no acknowledgement of the stolen tuition money, no mention of the forged signature, no apology for the birthday party or the years of favoritism or the lies. Just more accusations, more gaslighting, more playing the victim. Uncle Logan's response was already composed when I got to the kitchen the next morning. Gary. I have documentation of every transfer I made to you over the past 2 years. They were explicitly labeled as loans in the transaction notes. You signed a promissory note in 2023. I have the copy. The Mercedes is registered to my company. I have never promised it to you as compensation for anything. You did minimal bookkeeping for me one tax season, and I paid you $3,000 for it. That does not entitle you to a $45,000 vehicle. Regarding Kayla's tuition money, I have evidence of wire fraud, a forged signature on her grandmother's inheritance check. A transfer you made without her knowledge or consent. That is a federal crime. You have refused my settlement offer. Therefore, as of this morning, my attorney has filed a civil complaint for the return of $50,000 in loans, plus interest and legal fees. You will be served within the week. Regarding the criminal matter of wire fraud, I am forwarding the evidence to the IRS and the district attorney's office. They will decide whether to prosecute. You have made your choice. Now face the consequences. Logan. He showed me the email before sending it. Last chance to back out. He said quietly. Once this goes out, there's no stopping it. Your parents will know you provided the evidence for the wire fraud case. I thought about my mother's Facebook post, about the strangers commenting on my character, about Tiffany's smile as she reached for my thesis model. Send it, I said. He did. The fallout was immediate. Within hours, my mother was calling Uncle Logan's phone non-stop. He blocked her. She started calling from different numbers, Tiffany's phone, neighbors' phones, even the landline at their church. Uncle Logan blocked them all. My father sent increasingly desperate emails, each one more unhinged than the last, claiming Uncle Logan was having a mental breakdown. That I'd seduced Austin into helping me. That they'd call the police and report the car stolen. Let them, Austin said when I showed him the emails. I'd love to watch them try to explain to the cops that they're reporting a car stolen that isn't in their name, isn't at their address, and that they have no legal claim to. The social media posts got worse too. Mom started a GoFundMe claiming they were victims of family financial abuse and needed help paying for legal representation. It raised $300 before someone reported it as fraudulent. Tiffany posted daily updates about her struggling mental health and how family betrayal was destroying her. The comments were sympathetic at first, but then one of my architecture school friends commented with a link to the video I'd posted, the one of Tiffany trying to break into my car. "This is the victim you're all supporting. She tried to destroy her sister's thesis project out of jealousy. Maybe get the full story before you donate." The tide started to turn. People began asking questions. Why would a 21-year-old steal a car that wasn't in her parents' name? Why was a 25-year-old woman living off her parents and throwing tantrums? Why did the parents' story keep changing? Within a week, Mom had made her Facebook friends only. Tiffany stopped posting. Dad's LinkedIn profile went private, but the legal wheels were already turning. The process server found them at the Mount Pleasant house, the one that was about to stop being their house. My father tried to refuse the papers. The server left them on the doorstep and filed proof of service anyway. Uncle Logan's lawsuit was official. And according to Austin, who had a friend interning at the DA's office, someone had indeed opened an investigation into the wire fraud case. "They're panicking," Austin said one evening as we sat on Uncle Logan's balcony, watching the sun set over the harbor. "Your mom sent my mom a Facebook message asking her to talk sense into me. She actually used the phrase, 'boys will be boys,' and suggested I was just doing this to impress you." I almost laughed. Almost. "What did your mom say?" "That I'm a grown man capable of making my own decisions, and that she's seen the evidence and it's pretty damning." He squeezed my hand. "Mom's known your family for years. She's not surprised this happened. She's only surprised it took this long." That hurt more than it should have. The idea that people had watched my family dysfunction for years and just accepted it as normal. That nobody had stepped in to help me until Uncle Logan finally snapped. "Hey." Austin turned to face me, his expression gentle. "You got out. That's what matters. You stood up for yourself. You protected your future. And you're not letting them drag you back down." "I keep waiting to feel guilty," I admitted. "Like, they're my parents. They're going to lose their house. They might face criminal charges. Shouldn't I feel bad about that?" "Do you?" I examined my feelings carefully. The old Kayla would have been drowning in guilt, would have been looking for ways to fix things, to make peace, to sacrifice herself for family harmony. But now? I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret. Just a clean, clear certainty that I'd done the right thing. "No," I said. "I don't." Austin smiled. "Good. Because they did this to themselves. Every single consequence they're facing is a result of their own choices. You didn't make them forge your signature. You didn't make them steal from Uncle Logan. You didn't make them choose Tiffany over you again and again. They did all of that on their own." Uncle Logan emerged onto the balcony with 3 glasses of wine. "We got a court date," he announced. 6 weeks from now. And Gary's attorney just filed a motion to dismiss, claiming the loans were gifts. "Will it work?" I asked. "Not a chance. I have documentation, and Gary's too stupid to have covered his tracks." He settled into a chair, looking out at the city with satisfaction. "This is going to be ugly. But it's going to be over soon." I raised my glass, and we toasted to endings, to consequences, to freedom. 3 weeks later, the notification popped up on my phone, just as I was putting the finishing touches on my thesis presentation boards. Subject: Family Meeting Request. "Kayla, your mother and I would like to meet with you and Logan to discuss a settlement. Please, this has gone on long enough. We're still your parents. Let's resolve this face-to-face, as a family should. We can come to Logan's place this Saturday at 2 p.m. if that works. Dad." I stared at the email, my finger hovering over the delete button. "Don't respond yet," Austin said when I showed it to him. We were at his apartment near the law school, surrounded by his casebooks and my architecture models. "Let me talk to Uncle Logan first. If they want to meet, we do it on our terms, with everything documented." Uncle Logan's response was immediate when Austin called. "Fine, but I want Austin there as a witness," and we record the entire conversation. South Carolina's a one-party consent state they don't need to know. Saturday arrived with the kind of oppressive heat that made Charleston feel like a sauna. I dressed carefully, white blouse, black slacks, my hair pulled back in a professional bun. I wanted to look competent, untouchable, not like the girl in the emerald dress who'd stood helplessly at the bottom of the stairs while her family fell apart. Austin wore a full suit despite the heat, every inch the law student about to become an attorney. Uncle Logan was in business casual, relaxed but alert. We set up in the living room. Uncle Logan positioned his phone on the bookshelf, camera angled to capture the entire seating area. Austin sat at the head of the coffee table, arranging 3 distinct file folders with surgical precision. At 2:03 p.m., the doorbell rang. Uncle Logan opened the door, his expression neutral. Gary, Brenda, Tiffany. They looked terrible. My father had lost weight, his face gaunt and gray. My mother's hair had more white in it than I remembered, and she'd aged a decade in 3 weeks. But it was Tiffany who shocked me most. She looked haggard, her eyes hollow, her expensive clothes replaced by a cheap t-shirt and jeans. They filed into the living room like condemned prisoners approaching the gallows. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Mom started, her voice quavering. "We've been so worried. We just want to—" "Sit," Uncle Logan interrupted. "Let's keep this efficient." They sat on the couch across from us. Tiffany kept glancing at Austin like he was a snake about to strike. "Smart girl. Too late, but smart. We're here to settle this," Dad said. He was trying for authoritative, but it came out desperate. "This lawsuit is tearing the family apart. Surely we can come to some arrangement." "Before we discuss arrangements," Austin said smoothly, opening the first folder, "let's establish the facts. Uncle Logan has filed a civil complaint for the return of $50,000 in loans, plus interest and legal fees. You attempted to have the case dismissed by claiming the money was gifted, but Judge Morrison denied your motion. The trial is set for 3 weeks from now." Dad's jaw tightened. "Those were loans, documented in writing. You signed a promissory note." Austin revealed the document. "This is your signature, correct?" Silence. Austin continued, merciless. "Separately, there is the matter of wire fraud. $15,000 was withdrawn from Kayla's inheritance. Trust the one from her grandmother, with a forged signature. The IRS has opened an investigation. The DA's office is reviewing the case for potential criminal charges." Mom made a choking sound. "We didn't, that was a misunderstanding. We needed the money for—" "For what?" I asked quietly. It was the first time I'd spoken, and everyone's attention snapped to me. "For Tiffany's car payments? For her shopping trips? For maintaining the lifestyle you were all living on Uncle Logan's money?" "We're your parents," Mom said, tears streaming down her face. "We sacrificed everything for you. Put a roof over your head, food on your table. How can you be so cruel?" The old me would have crumbled at those words, would have felt the guilt, the obligation, the desperate need to fix things. The new me felt nothing but cold certainty. "You canceled my 21st birthday," I said evenly. "You prioritized Tiffany's tantrum over my milestone. You lied to Uncle Logan about where his money was going. You forged my signature and stole my education fund. And when I finally stood up for myself, you launched a smear campaign calling me abusive." "You were being dramatic," Tiffany interjected, her voice sharp. "It was just a birthday dinner. I was going through something." "You're 25 years old," Austin cut in. "You're an adult. Going through something doesn't entitle you to destroy other people's lives." He pulled out the second folder. "Speaking of which, let's discuss the attempted vandalism. You used a spare key to unlawfully enter Kayla's vehicle with the intent to destroy her thesis project. We witnessed this. We have it on video. That's criminal trespass and attempted property damage." Tiffany's face went white. "You wouldn't—" "I already did. The video is part of the evidence package submitted to the DA's office." Austin's voice was flat, professional. "You're looking at potential criminal charges as well." "This is insane!" Dad exploded, lurching to his feet. "You're going to send us to prison? Destroy your own family? Over what hurt feelings? Kayla's always been sensitive, always played the victim." "Sit down," Uncle Logan said quietly. Something in his tone made Dad freeze. He looked at his older brother, really looked at him, and saw something that made him slowly sink back onto the couch. Let me make something very clear, Uncle Logan continued. You came here asking for a settlement, so here are your options. He nodded to Austin, who pulled out the third folder. Option 1, Austin said, reading from the document. You sign this payment agreement immediately. You agree to pay Uncle Logan $700 per month for the next 7 years to repay the $50,000, plus interest. You vacate Uncle Logan's property, the house you've been living in, within 30 days. You provide written proof that you've returned the $15,000 stolen from Kayla's education fund within 60 days. We don't have $15,000, Mom whispered. We needed it for. That's not my problem, I said coldly. Sell something. Get a loan. Figure it out. But that money was mine. Grandma left it for me, and you stole it. Austin continued. Additionally, you will delete all social media posts related to this situation, provide written apologies to both Kayla and Uncle Logan, and sign a no-contact agreement. No calls, no texts, no emails, no showing up at Kayla's school or workplace, complete separation for a minimum of 2 years. And if we do all that? Dad asked weakly. Uncle Logan drops the lawsuit. We don't pursue the wire fraud criminal charges. The IRS investigation will proceed independently, but we won't actively cooperate. And the vandalism video stays private. There was a long silence. And, option 2? Tiffany asked, her voice barely audible. We proceed to trial, Austin said simply. Uncle Logan wins his civil case. Your attorney already admitted you can't actually contest the loans. The judgment goes on your credit report. Your wages get garnished at 25% until the debt is paid. The house is foreclosed. And we actively pursue criminal charges for wire fraud and attempted vandalism. You'd send your own parents to prison, Dad said hollowly. No, I corrected. You sent yourselves to prison the moment you forged my signature. I'm just choosing not to protect you from the consequences anymore. Mom was sobbing now, ugly crying that shook her whole body. Tiffany stared at the floor, her hands clenched into fists. Dad looked at Uncle Logan with something like betrayal. You were supposed to be family, Dad said. I am family, Uncle Logan replied, to Kayla, who you abused and neglected for 21 years while I watched and convinced myself it wasn't my business. I'm done making that mistake. He pulled a pen from his pocket and set it on the table next to the payment agreement. You have 2 minutes to decide. The seconds ticked by in crushing silence. I watched my parents looking at each other, having some wordless conversation. Saw Tiffany's face crumble as she realized they were going to choose themselves over her, just like they'd always chosen her over me. Funny how it felt when the tables turned. We'll sign? Dad finally said. All 3 of you, Austin specified. Tiffany is included in the no-contact agreement and the social media deletion requirement. Tiffany looked like she wanted to argue, but one glance at the folders on the table at the evidence of her attempted crime made her swallow her protest. Dad picked up the pen with a shaking hand. He read through the agreement, his lips moving silently, looking for some loophole, some escape. There wasn't one. Austin had been thorough. The pen touched paper. Dad's signature sprawled across the bottom of the first page, then the second, then the third. He passed it to Mom, who signed while crying. Finally, Tiffany snatched it and scrawled her name, throwing the pen down like it burned her. The social media posts need to be deleted now, Austin said. While we're all here, I want to verify it. Mom pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I watched as she navigated to Facebook, deleted the post. Dad did the same. Tiffany took longer. She'd posted so many things, but eventually, they were all gone. Payment schedule starts next month, Uncle Logan said. You'll receive invoices by email. And you have 30 days to vacate the property. After that, I'm changing the locks and everything left behind will be considered abandoned. Where are we supposed to go? Mom asked helplessly. Not my problem, Uncle Logan said without sympathy. You've had 3 weeks to plan for this. You knew it was coming. They stood as a group, and for a moment, I thought Tiffany was going to say something. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Rage, shame, disbelief, all mixed together. Then she turned and walked out. Dad followed, his shoulders slumped. Mom paused at the door, looking back at me. I hope you're happy, she said, venom cutting through her tears. You've destroyed this family. No, I replied calmly. You destroyed this family 21 years ago when you decided one daughter was worth more than the other. I just stopped letting you get away with it." She flinched like I'd slapped her, then hurried out after my father. The door closed behind them with a soft click. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Uncle Logan stood, walked to the bookshelf, and stopped the recording on his phone. "It's done," he said quietly. I waited for the guilt to hit. For the regret, the doubt, the desperate urge to call them back and fix things. It didn't come. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. True, deep, unshakable peace. Austin put his arm around me, and I leaned into him, watching through the window as my parents and Tiffany climbed into a beat-up Honda, someone else's car, I realized. Probably borrowed. The Mercedes days were over for them. "How do you feel?" Uncle Logan asked. I thought about it carefully. "Free," I finally said. "I feel free." The Honda pulled away from the curb. I watched them until they turned the corner, the red taillights disappearing into the Charleston humidity, before I finally turned my back. I turned to look at Uncle Logan, at Austin, at the penthouse that had become my real home, at the life I was building on my own terms. "Thank you," I said to both of them, "for helping me stand up for myself, for not letting them pull me back down." "You stood up for yourself," Austin corrected gently. "We just provided backup." Uncle Logan nodded. "You're stronger than you know, Kayla. You always were. You just needed to believe it." That night, after Austin left, and Uncle Logan retired to his study, I stood on the balcony looking out at Charleston. The city lights sparkled like stars. The air smelled like salt and summer. In the distance, I could see the Ravenel Bridge, lit up against the dark sky, and I thought about roads, about crossings, about leaving one place behind and moving towards something new. They'd canceled my 21st birthday, thinking they could keep me small and compliant forever. Instead, they'd given me the greatest gift they possibly could have, the motivation to finally walk away. The rest of my life stretched out before me, bright and unburdened. And for the first time in 21 years, it was entirely, completely mine. The sun streamed through the tall windows of the College of Charleston's architecture building, catching the dust motes and turning them into floating gold. 3 months had passed since that Saturday afternoon confrontation, and I was standing in front of my thesis committee wearing a crisp white suit that made me feel like I could conquer the world. My presentation boards lined the wall behind me, months of work, distilled into clean layouts and precise renderings. The architectural model sat on the table to my left, every detail intact, every window catching the light. The Sustainable Community Center I'd designed for North Charleston looked almost real under the presentation lighting, and I'd memorized every square foot of it. "Miss Monroe," Professor Davidson said, adjusting his glasses as he reviewed my calculations, "walk us through your structural considerations for the green roof system." I'd prepared for this. I'd prepared for everything. "The green roof utilizes a modular tray system with native drought-resistant plants," I began, my voice steady and confident. "The structural load is distributed across reinforced steel beams, spaced at 16-inch centers, with additional support columns here and here." I pointed to the model. "The system captures and filters stormwater runoff, reducing the burden on Charleston's aging drainage infrastructure by approximately 40%. Professor Davidson nodded, making notes. Professor Miller, the toughest critic in the department, leaned forward. "And the community programming? How does your design address the socio-economic challenges of the North Charleston neighborhood?" This was the question I'd been waiting for, the one that mattered most. "The center is designed with flexibility as its core principle," I explained. "The main hall can be subdivided using movable partition walls to accommodate everything from job training workshops to community dinners. The commercial kitchen meets health department standards for small business incubation, allowing local food entrepreneurs to develop their products. And the second-floor classrooms have dedicated high-speed internet and computer stations, addressing the digital divide that limits educational opportunities." I walked them through every decision, every calculation, every choice I'd made. And as I spoke, I realized something. I wasn't the same girl who'd stood at the bottom of those stairs in an emerald dress, hoping desperately for scraps of acknowledgement. I was someone who'd built something meaningful, someone who'd stood up for herself and survived, someone who knew her worth. The committee deliberated for exactly 7 minutes, I counted, before Professor Davidson smiled. Congratulations, Miss Monroe. Your thesis is approved with distinction. The relief hit me like a wave, but it was Austin's whoop from the observation area that made me laugh. He'd been sitting there for the entire 2-hour defense, along with Uncle Logan and Jessica, all of them witnessing this moment. Speaking of which, Uncle Logan continued, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. This came to my office yesterday. Certified mail. I recognized my father's handwriting on the return address. My stomach clenched. It's the thitted payment. Uncle Logan said, opening it to show me. $700, exactly as agreed, and a cashier's check for $3,000 toward the stolen tuition fund. Have you heard anything else? I asked carefully. About where they ended up? Uncle Logan exchanged a glance with Austin. They're renting a basement apartment in North Charleston. Austin said quietly. Your dad's wages are being garnished 25% for the loan repayment. Your mom got a job at a call center. And Tiffany. He trailed off, and I raised an eyebrow. What about Tiffany? She's working as a cashier at the Walmart on Rivers Avenue, Austin said. Jessica's cousin saw her there last week. Apparently, she doesn't post on social media anymore. No Instagram stories, no Facebook updates, nothing. I tried to feel something about that satisfaction maybe, or vindication, but mostly I just felt distant. Like they were characters in a story I'd finished reading, not people who'd once controlled my entire life. Jessica appeared with a bottle of champagne she'd somehow smuggled into the building. Okay, enough serious talk. Kayla Monroe just defended her thesis with distinction. We're celebrating. That evening, Uncle Logan took us all to Magnolia's, the restaurant where my birthday dinner was supposed to have happened. We sat at a table with a view of the water, the late December sun painting everything gold and pink. Austin sat next to me, his hand warm on my knee under the table. My phone buzzed in my purse. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. It was an email from a firm in Charleston, Morrison and Associates, one of the top architectural practices in the Southeast. They'd attended the thesis exhibitions earlier in the week. Dear Miss Monroe, we were impressed by your community center design and would like to invite you to interview for our junior designer position beginning June. Please contact us at your earliest convenience to schedule. Best regards. Patricia Morrison, FAIA. I stared at the screen, reading it 3 times to make sure it was real. What is it? Austin asked. I handed him my phone wordlessly. His eyes widened as he read, then he broke into a huge grin. Kayla, this is Morrison and Associates. They're one of the best firms in the state. Uncle Logan leaned over to read it, and his expression shifted to something I'd never seen before, pure, unfiltered pride. Of course they want you, he said simply. You're brilliant. They'd be lucky to have you. Jessica squealed and demanded to see the email, and soon the whole table was celebrating again, our waiter bringing complimentary desserts, when Austin told him the news. As the evening wound down and the sky darkened over Charleston Harbor, I found myself thinking about roads again, about bridges, about the journey from that devastating night to this moment. 3 months ago, I'd stood at the bottom of the stairs in an emerald dress, hoping desperately for one night where I mattered. Now I was sitting at Magnolia's in a white suit, with a thesis defense behind me, a job interview ahead of me, and people around me who actually valued who I was. The girl in the emerald dress had been so afraid. Afraid of conflict, afraid of losing her family's love, afraid of being alone. But she'd learned something crucial. Some things are worse than being alone, and sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do.